Hi, I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing on Empower Radio. We come together every week to discuss all different types of healings and different healing modalities, and that's something the world needs a lot of these days, maybe now more than ever. And if you're new to my show, I just want to give you a big welcome and thank you for joining us today. And if you've been journeying with us for a while, then welcome back. I'm so thrilled to have today's a guest, my fellow Empower Radio show host, Jane Asher, and she has a fantastic show right here on Empower Radio called The Next Room, and we're here to talk about her book of the same name, The Next Room. This story blew me away, and it's an incredible story that really transcends time and space about the relationship of a mother and daughter that grew actually even stronger and deeper after death. So Jane spoke with her mother through using a psychic medium. They co-wrote this book that is filled with all this incredible wisdom from what it's like to be on the other side. And it's so touching and so heartfelt. So welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're with
Wow,
us today, Jane.
that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's absolutely a pleasure to be on your show. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's just I don't know, it just feels so interesting to be on the other side of things right now, and to have people want to interview me. So I'm very, very grateful because
Well,
I'm used to being the one that's asking the questions.
I know, me too, and I've been on your show as a guest,
I
so
know.
we're just trading places right now, and I just think this is a fascinating book that you did, Jane. That's quite a remarkable idea that you had this idea. I know that it was very significant for you, the passing of your mother, and sort of was this massive, you know, uh, like a point in your life that changed everything, like this transcendent experience that um ushered in a new phase of your life. Um and so why don't you talk a little bit about that, like what happened there, and how did you get this idea of writing a book with your mother?
Yeah, boy, it just morphed and changed it over the years. I kind of always wanted to write a book with my mom. She was a great writer, and we would talk extensively when she was on this side and kind of joke around a little bit about it. And when she crossed over, I was devastated. I was like, what is going on? How am I going to go through this life without this incredible human being who I just had such a bond with her and still do, obviously. But so the idea started that at first I was going to write this story sort of like I see dead people, and it felt more of a fiction piece where you wouldn't know she was in the next room. And then it just felt a little bit too precious. And then finally, flash forward, my sister, who's now on the other side, she gave me this lightning bolt of inspiration to contact my friend Pam, who's a psychic medium, and ask Pam to help me translate messages from my mom. And
Mm,
so that's kind of how it all got started. It was like, oh my gosh, I love that idea. I mean, literally having, because my mother had been in contact with us shortly after she crossed. Because I had set up sessions for my dad so that, because he was so despondent and he just needed comfort. He needed to know she was alive and well, not alive, but on the other side, just waiting for him somewhere for this interim of time until he could, meet up with her again. So it
mm,
gave him great comfort. And that's kind of how it all got started, where my dad was doing sessions with Pam. And then um, I asked her if she would be so kind as to translate for me. And so she said, absolutely. What do you have in mind? And I said, well, I have a bunch of questions. And so we would set up sessions where my mother would visit Pam, come through, and I would start asking my mom these questions. And my mother just came through with such astonishing clarity and would answer everything. And I have all the sessions recorded. So then I had to transcribe everything, which was really difficult. But, I just sat there and transcribed away. And then the story kept evolving to where my mother eventually said to Pam, no offense, Pam, but Jane does not need you to do this story, to bring it home, so to speak. She can connect with me. She has been connecting with me. She talks to me every day. she can hear me and she can channel the rest of this information that I'm going to give her. And Pam was like, no offense, Betty. And then that's what brought us to part 4, because the book's in, 4 parts. And I only had 3 parts. I only had through, Pam and mom and myself. And then my mother said, I checked in with Pam to say, hey, I just need to check with mom and see if she likes what I've written thus far of our story, part 1, part 2, part 3. And Pam says, okay, Betty. All right. Your mother says there's going to be a prologue, an epilogue, and a part 4. And it blew me away because I'm like, part 4, what? I mean, I thought the end was part 3, me, Pam, and mom. And there it was. And so that's when I opened up and she started coming through. And I couldn't believe it myself, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm out here in my studio sobbing. I'm writing, I'm sobbing, I'm hearing all this stuff, and I'm just getting it down, writing. And then I'd read it back and I'm like, it's not me. That was not me. That was not me. It was my mother. So
Wow.
that's kind of how it all happened. I mean, it's still kind of to this day when I pick the book up and I read part 4, I'm like, wow, mom, that's good. I'm so grateful. And I just can't even believe that she is giving us this gift, this comfort and hope, and just amazing. My dog just said, yeah, you be good.
Wow, Jane, that's such an incredible story. And I've been working as a psychic since I was 19 myself, and I teach psychic development. It's a lot of what I do these days, and I found so many people going through sort of sudden psychic openings like you did after the death of a loved one.
Yeah.
So that can be like a doorway that really opens our own natural psychic gifts. And it sounds like you were like as you were talking, like that's not something you ever expected to do. Did you identify yourself as a psychic or intuitive
Never.
before that?
No, no, I still don't. I know I know I have a lot of intuition. There's no doubt about it, but I would never say, "Oh, I'm psychic. Come here, sit down and let me tell you about you."
Mm,
Um, I just I love communicating with those that have gone beyond. I always have. Ever since I was a little girl, I would study things like that. I liked anything that was bizarre or different. I loved Alfred Hitchcock. I loved Agatha Christie, Harriet the Spy. Anything
mhm.
mystical or different. And my mother fed that passion. She put books in my hands, and she kind of honored my, I would call it strange, she would say unique, and never judged me for it. She just was always like, go for it. I was a very curious kid, and so I was very open. But honestly, I don't consider myself psychic. I just feel like, because of the connection I have with my mom, and she knows how important it is for me to help people, I guess. And that is the full intention. I mean, I wrote out an absolute manifesto of an intention for what this book could and should help people do. And it is about healing, and it's about hope, and about knowing that our loved ones just change forms. They're forever available. They're right here. They're all in the room with me right now. I invited everybody to the party. I'm looking up because I have this shelf of everyone that has crossed. And I talk to the gang every day and just say, come on, let's go. So
And
I
Jane, you
don't,
had this radio show called The Next Room now,
yes,
which is really all about death, dying, grief, and these kinds of
yes.
topics. Did that you had you've had your radio show for a long time. I know you have. Was that before your mother died that you had the show?
No, no, not at all. As a matter of fact, I didn't have a podcast. I was on terrestrial radio. I was like throwing down Pink songs, I mean, I was a DJ on a popular radio station here, and I just kind of felt like it had run its course. I just didn't feel it was feeding my passion. So I retired from terrestrial radio and kind of started a social media business. And Brent got a hold of me, the fabulous Brent Carey, who I love to pieces, and said, you should do a podcast.
Mm.
And I said, I don't know. So I had started off by doing one called Voices of Vision, which was about other people's passions. And it just fizzled out. I don't know what the deal is, but it seemed like it was almost hard to get guests to come on. And then I stopped doing it. Brent called again and said, Jane, I really think you should do a show about your passion. And I was like, what's my passion? Gardening? Now, I don't think we can do a show about gardening. And, I went music, nah, writing, I love to write. And so I went through this whole list, and all of a sudden it came to me. I thought, I'm fascinated with the afterlife. I'm fascinated with the cultural traditions surrounding death. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated with green burials and grief and all of it. Every single aspect of death to me is dinner conversation. So he said, well, write it up. So I write up a show thing for him. And he said, I love it. We don't have anything on the network like that. Let's go. So that's when the show happened. I think it's two, maybe I'm going on 3 years.
Mm.
I think it'll be 3 years in January.
Wow,
So
good.
the show was sort of, it obviously was a catalyst because it opened me up even further to have guests like yourself on. Pam Osley's been a regular. And so I guess it just kind of started bringing more and more of this intuition to the forefront. And then as that was happening, the book kind of was starting to become real. And I don't know, just kind of all came together. I can't explain it now. Now I've stepped out of my metaphysical spiritual closet and there's no going back, you know?
Well, good, because the world needs
Yeah.
you, and the world needs your message and the beautiful take that you have on talking about. I lost my dad this year too.
Oh, Lisa, I'm
Just
so
actually,
sorry.
thank you. Yeah, just about a year ago, from right now,
So
and
hard.
it's so hard. Yeah, and um, he was 82 and he lived a good
Mm,
life, and he died a good death too. But I feel like we used to talk about it, he and I, before he passed, because he wanted to talk about it, and
yeah.
it was hard for him to get anyone to listen. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
because I think it's like this taboo topic that we kind of
yeah.
push under the rug and
Yeah.
and I feel like we need a revolution in this, and I think the work that you're doing with your show and this beautiful book that you wrote are sort of essential at transforming our relationship with death. It seems super important. So thank you for the work that
Well,
you're
yeah.
doing.
Well, I appreciate that. You're very welcome.
Mm.
I just feel like it's what I was meant to do my whole life. It just took me 55 years or so to get there, you know? I mean, I'm laughing about it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just turned 60 and I just wrote a book." It's like, but I guess it just goes to show you it doesn't matter. Time does not matter.
No.
We're just here for just a half a heartbeat. Get your groove on. You're never too old to do something that has been inside of you, because we all have gifts. And if we don't share our gifts, then what a bummer to leave this life as it is and go into the next room and go, ah, man, I coulda, woulda,
And I think we can use these people who really, I think, recover from the passing of someone, use the opportunity to change. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
It's a transformational experience, and so finding the beauty in it, or finding the meaning in it, allowing it to shape you and transform you as it has for you. I feel like that's also special and noteworthy and appreciated. And I'm also really curious about some of the messages that your mother brought through, because
Mm,
I've heard you say that they were surprising to you, and even to Pam, who's spent her life like I have talking to dead people, and yet some of the things that come through were surprising. What came through that you didn't expect?
boy, uh, reincarnation. Like I know intellectually, like, yeah, I've always thought, okay, we're here and then we, get as good as we can. And then when we cross over, we're plugged back in, and then when we come back, we're kind of learning the lessons maybe we didn't learn. And so I was talking to mom, and she had talked about her energy being in a couple different places as a whole.
Hmm?
And I'm like, what? And I thought immediately that I instantly thought, here's this young woman. I'm raised, super Lutheran from the Midwest. People are going to be really upset. But I couldn't take that part out of the book because it's what she was telling me. And so I was kind of surprised by that. And also too, the at first she was showing Pam a lot of soul families and light beings that were not necessarily human.
Mm.
And that it didn't surprise me as much as it like kind of like, whoa, okay, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I wanted my version of what I had been raised to think of heaven, clouds and flowers and music and puppies running everywhere and your loved ones and you're having a picnic and I just wasn't ready to grasp the totality of how grand this next phase is. But I am now because that is going to be the next room too.
Mm.
It's necessary. She really wants to write another book. She said one, maybe even two more, depending on how busy I get. And I can see now, just with getting booked on other shows, I can see what she was talking about. I'm thinking, why would I be busy? Why couldn't I just sit and write? Well, I've, been busy. So,
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, I feel like it's so hard for us as humans in a body to grasp, really understand. I've talked to so many dead people too, and their messages are pretty consistent, but they also sort of say you can't really understand what it's like
right,
until you get there.
exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, that's, the way she was explaining it is that it's not even infinity because infinity, it just keeps going. And that all of the teeny tiny fragments, it's like if you smashed a huge picture, glass on the floor and all those little shards, and you're like, ah. But when you see it all come together perfectly, that it all makes sense, that nothing dies, ants and little starfish and things change form, but once you plug back into it, it's this beautiful, greater awareness of how vast and absolutely stunning it is. And that there are no human words to describe it because many have tried, but we're human. We can't possibly get there and describe how grand it is. So, my mother, God bless her, she's doing a great job trying to capture it, but she kept telling me, just speak to the humans. Just speak to the humans. Talk to the humans. And Pam's like, well, who are you speaking for? And she's like, the angelic realm, the
Yeah,
greater purpose. But there's no possible way for me or anyone to capture what it is. But we can give it a good college try. And that's kind of what the next room is all about, is just me opening up to receive and expand without fear, which was another one of her big messages for me. Because I, get in my head and I'm like, oh, what will people think? She's like, so what? It's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. Doesn't
mm,
matter. So that was a big lesson for me to wrap my arms around because I'm from a big family. There's a lot of Catholicism. There's a lot of guilt and
right.
shame, and my mother's like, uh-uh, don't even. There is no guilt, there is no shame. That is not part of this experience.
That's great.
Um, yeah.
Were you guys able to work out any personal stuff, or like was there a personal healing? I mean, it seems like you had a beautiful relationship
Yeah.
with your mother all anyway, but what happened on a personal level, if you don't mind
Yeah.
sharing?
No, I don't. There were some things that needed to be worked out that I could not put in the book because I didn't wanna hurt anyone.
Mm,
And so it was just for me. So,
right.
and it really did help me in my growth and moving forward with some things that were really upsetting me um, with people I love. And so she put things in really keen perspective for me. And I dance around it, but I just didn't want to go there because it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay because mom showed me how to heal through it. And so that's all that matters, is now I'm whole and happy and complete with these relationships. And it's all good. I don't need to try to bend anyone. I don't need to try to educate anyone. I don't need to try to change anyone. I just need to love them the way they are now, because they will get it. They will plug back in and have their aha moment, but maybe not necessarily on this side. And
Exactly.
that's what's important, is I had to release that, well, I need to, you know, give them an education. And she's like, No, you know, respect them and allow them to grow at their soul's level of growth, because each of us are on a different path. You know, I didn't know this would be my path when I was, playing Led Zeppelin on K-Tide, 35 years ago. I mean, I was the total rock and roll chick. I mean,
I love that.
I was backstage with bands, and I was on Willie Nelson's bus, and I mean, I had like the total rock and roll upbringing, I guess. And who'da thunk? Because
Who'd have thunk?
I made a big hard pivot to the left, and I love it. I am so satisfied. If someone called and offered me the biggest job on the planet playing music again, I'd say no, thank you.
Hmm.
Nope, I'm good doing my little podcast here. I'm talking to dead people. Pardon me.
I love it.
So,
And
yeah.
I find that, this is one of the things that people find so healing about working with mediums is that sometimes we we have better luck resolving our issues with people once they are in the next room,
Yes.
because it kind of frees them up from some of the stuck places in them, or the places where they can't shift their perspective. And I've done many healing sessions for people where they were just in at loggerheads in when everyone was living, and when someone's now on the other side, it all of a sudden there's a potential for healing at a
Yes.
deeper and deeper level than maybe when they were
Absolutely.
over here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and good for you for being able to do that. I love a good psychic medium. I'm such a fan, and I've had
Mm.
so many good connections with them in my life. And I just think it is a true gift that you have, and I know that you can develop it. I know that people can,
Yep.
become more in tune like I am, but like I have no desire to do what you're doing. I just really respect what you're doing, because if it were not for Pamela Osley, my dad was ready to check out, which was his words for dying.
Yep.
After, I mean, they were married 62 years, and
Yeah.
it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, but those two, they were like made for one another. They were just, they held hands, they were on the dance floor, they traveled, they were just a beautiful, beautiful couple. And through many lifetimes, as now I know. Um, but Pam helped my dad in his healing. I mean, he could have went to a grief counselor or his pastor or anything, but he came out here to California and just said, "I need to talk to your friend." And I'm like, "Which friend?" He said, "The one that does seances." And I laughed. I'm like, "Oh, you mean my friend Pam?" In one call with my friend Pam, the healing was so complete and evident. He knew without a shadow of a doubt that my mother was just, beyond the veil in the next room waiting for him. But my mother also said, get busy living. You're going to be on that side for a long time. And he did. He lived almost 8 years past my mom. He was 91
Wow.
before he checked out, in great health, and really added some good years and some growth to his life, because of these conversations. He called it calling mom. But my dad got this whole thing started. He really opened up the lid, because I didn't really understand about the medium side. I knew what a psychic did, but I didn't really understand what a medium did. I mean, you would think I would know, but I was like, huh, I'll be darned. They talk to people that have transitioned. That's really powerful.
So cool.
Yeah.
So, Jane, how can people get your book, and where can they find you if they want to know more about this?
You can just go to my website, the fabulous Tony is putting it up there on the screen. It's janeasherrainey.com, or I also have the URL, thenextroombook.com. There it is. Thank you, Tony. I love
Mhm.
Tony. Tony's my producer too, by the way,
Yeah,
for the next
Tony's
room.
the
And he's
best.
just like the world's greatest producer. I love Tony. Um, so you can order it from me directly if you want. You will pay a couple extra bucks, but I autograph them and I send them out with a thank you note.
Nice.
Um, so you can order it right there on the website, or you can order it through Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble, wherever you purchase your favorite books. You will have to order it because it's publish on demand. So I don't know how long it takes and all that good stuff. But yeah, you can just go to my website, check it out, and get it through there if you want, or if you want to save a few bucks, do it the other way.
That's
So
awesome. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Jane.
for,
And I hope everybody also catches Jane's radio show, The Next Room, right here on Empower Radio.
yay.
She's got some fantastic stuff. We'll definitely put a plug in for her show. She's
Thank you.
amazing, and all that years of radio comes out so beautifully in the show that you do. So
Thank you.
if you want to know more about that, you can check it out right here on Empower Radio. So thanks, Jane, for being with us today, sharing your story, and I hope your book gets out everywhere because it's so beautiful. And let's spread the word, and so that everyone who needs it and wants it can find it.
Thank you so much. Lisa, I really appreciate it. I'm just very grateful that you would have me on your show. And I know I get super long winded and crazy, but I just really, really appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, it was 100% my pleasure. It's delightful always, and um, the people that are on Empower are so wonderful. It's a beautiful community
Mm,
of
it
hosts
is.
to have, and I think we love supporting each other. So I'm thrilled to have you today, and I just wish you and your book so much. May you travel long and far and get to all the people that you need to.
Thank you.
And thanks all of you guys for tuning in with us today. You can find me at my website, lisacampion.com. I hope you stop by and visit. Drop me a line, say hi. I'd love to chat with you. And thanks for being with us right here today on the Miracle of Healing, where we are saving the planet one person at a time, right here on Empower Radio.